when to go and what to say and stuff, and I'll go.
Oh, we'll get you.
We'll queue you up.
Okay.
Welcome to Woodshop 101, a woodworking audio podcast geared toward the hobby weekend woodworker. Our hosts for the show are Jeremy Crawford and Drew Shore. Join these two different craftsmen for a lighthearted banter about everything woodworking, online education, and how they produce content. Topics could include the latest news, tips, tricks, and designs, to include furniture, crafts, and shop projects. All right, welcome back to episode number 21. All right, tonight we're going to talk about how to grow your YouTube channel or your business. All right, and we're joined tonight by our guest host, Bob Clagett of I Like to Make Stuff. Bob, how are you doing tonight?
I'm doing great, man. How are you guys?
Well, my night's getting a little better now that my kids are in bed and don't hear screaming in the background. So, what are you up to tonight, Drew?
I'm about the same as you. I put my daughter to bed not too long ago. It's amazing what a handkerchief and a gag does. I'm kidding.
Look, I'm getting used to this. My son's in kindergarten, so I'm getting used to this. Oh, I'm out of school for a week at a time for holidays, and when I need a break, I don't get it for this entire week. So I'm going to try to squeeze in shop time at night and trying to center myself before 6 o'clock rolls around and both my kids are up and because they don't know how to sleep late.
Oh, don't you hate that? No matter how early you put them to bed, they still wake up early.
Yeah. Oh, my son, he knows. As soon as he can see the light on the horizon, he's up and want to watch cartoons.
They have that internal alarm clock.
We've been thinking about doing a wall clock that has some markers on it so that they know not to come out of their room. Because we have 3 boys that stay in one room together. And so no matter who wakes up, everybody's up. So we thought about making a clock that says, if the minute hand or the hour hand is not past this point, you do not come out of your room.
You stay in there and play.
Yep, exactly.
Turn on your TV. I don't care. Yeah, I've really been playing with the idea of setting an alarm clock or something, some kind of clock that tells my son, like, you stay in your room or in bed until this time. And so I may do that and try to implement that over the Christmas holidays because, it don't matter. Even at 5:30, if he gets up, it's like a nightmare trying to get him back in bed because it's already been the night, and he's ready to go. So,
Got to get a trampoline. Do you have a trampoline?
No.
Get a trampoline, man. Best money you'll ever spend.
Like, I've had too many broken bones on trampolines, and my nephew, which is the same age as my son, just broke his arm on the trampoline. So,
now, are we talking a big, huge trampoline or just one little jobber just sitting on the floor?
Well, I got 4 kids, so we got like a 12-foot, with the net, the whole deal, and we get them in there and they bounce for an hour, and they sleep pretty well and pretty late.
if I'm going to invest money, Drew, I'm not buying like your little aerobics trampoline.
Well, you only have like 2 kids. Just have them hold hands, jump on there together.
Pretty sure my daughter's not going to be jumping anytime soon. At 11 months old, there's not much she can do.
Oh, but your son would love to help.
Not with that attitude. If you wanted to be a jumper, you got to
just throw her out there.
That's right.
Here you go.
Come on.
Have fun.
But no, I've really been looking at trampolines in the last few years, and there's a company out of Plano, Texas called the Springless Trampoline, and it's supposed to be like the safest trampoline ever. And so I've been looking at getting one of those, and where I live now, I got 2 giant trees and a giant shed in my backyard, so I have no place for a trampoline. You can jump about 1 foot before you hit your head on all sorts of branches. So, but I take him out. I let him ride his bike. It's like he has just endless energy. So, all right. Well, what's going on in your guys' shop? You doing anything interesting?
Me, I am working on my arcade machine, making a full-size arcade. I've talked about that on like my videos and podcasts and stuff. But
For like the last 3 years.
yeah, but it's actually happening. It exists, and it's sitting in the middle of my shop and causes me not to be able to walk around my shop because it's taking up every bit of space I have. So,
Oh, that sounds like something else in my shop. Like
I was going
yeah.
to say,
dining room
this sounds all
table.
familiar.
like a dining room table that's been sitting in there for a year.
That you have talked about for a year.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah, that arcade machine's pretty neat idea. That's something that I would have never had thought about making myself. So it's very interesting.
Yeah.
Are you doing like retro games on it, Bob?
Yeah, it's got the brain of it is a Raspberry Pi, and I already put out a video a long time ago about how to do the electronics end of it. But the Raspberry Pi runs. It's a small computer that will run like every emulator of every system. So, it's going to have NES games, all the arcade games from the arcades when we were kids, and Sega and whatever.
That's
Just do things like Atari and stuff like that too.
Oh yeah, everything.
Huh.
So it'll be fun to have all that stuff in one place rather than having like to pull the Nintendo off the shelf and plug it in and stuff like that. So,
oh yeah,
dude, I'd be playing Missile Command all day.
I'd be playing either Pac-Man or Galactica all day.
Yep, I've got those both.
So yeah, I love old timey arcade games. Nothing better. My son's getting into old school Sega, or Sonic on the Sega. Oh, so awesome. Except I don't have a Sega anymore, so he's downloading like the games on the original Wii. So at least he's doing something that's expanding his mind besides playing like Minecraft. So, all right, Drew, what do you got going on?
I am in the midst of my cabinet build for the back wall of my shop still. I've put the cabinets together as of late, and now I'm fixing to mount them to the wall and start getting them ready for the doors and drawers and drawer fronts. So it's still an ongoing process, but it's coming along just at a slow pace.
Drew, I was just thinking, I don't know, yesterday, and thinking back, so we're at almost a year that the podcast has been going. And back in like the first episode or second episode, we were talking about goals for the year. And one of those goals, I'm not going to even mention mine because they're never going to get done. But one of your goals was to get that back wall done. And I was sitting here thinking like, man, about time he gets it done. And you're pushing it to the last minute to get these things done.
Yeah, I forgot about that goal setting. That was one of my goals.
Yeah, I mean, mine was to get the sofa table done, which is never going to get done, or my wife's dining room table, which is never going to get done.
But we're keeping that a secret, right?
No. I mean, she kind of knows. I mean, I ended up buying, about 3 or 4 months ago, I think. Now I ended up buying her a dining room table. I was just like, I'm tired of eating on the card table. I'm just going to go buy you one. And if I ever get yours done, we'll sell it. And you can use it. But, yeah, I just, I stay way too busy. And that goes back to what I was telling you guys right before we started airing, that I want to get back into build what I want to build and get projects done that I want and less what everybody else wants. Well, part of what's in my shop right now is finishing up those commissions, and I'm working on an order of 5 cheese boards, and they're actually going to have the built-in hardware that has the little wire slicer. And once that's done, that's my last commission, and then it's on to building a couple Christmas presents, and that's pretty much going to be the year for me. The rest of it's going to be a lot of computer stuff and trying to learn how to do vector images, maybe through like Inkscape or Adobe Illustrator. I have a puzzle, like a little puzzle rocking chair for toddlers, and everybody that has seen it has asked for some kind of templates to make their own. Because literally, like, this chair will come apart in several pieces and fold flat and put it away, where you can ship it across the country in a small box and they can put it back together. And the thing is I use what I have as the template, and I never worried about having like a paper template that people can put together. And it's finally, like, enough people have asked, I'm going to try to figure out how to do it. Whether I need to take like my actual hard templates and make a copy of them and scan them into the computer, and then I'm thinking maybe export or import that into like Inkscape or Illustrator and draw out the outline of them inside that to get a vector and then create like a PDF plan for it. So
yeah, I was wanting to try and do something like that because I think like Steve Ramsey, he does stuff like that for his patterns, downloadable plans that he gives his viewers.
Yeah, and I don't know if I'll do that for everything, but I know for this one that, you know, a lot of people have had interest in it, and so I'm at the point, like, if a lot of people are asking for it, it's obviously something that people want to see or want, so I'm going to try to do it. It just might be a little more painstakingly than what I am thinking.
I think it probably won't be as hard as you're thinking, honestly. I know there used to be some tools in Illustrator, and I'm not sure if they're still there or not, but that would let you trace a bitmap image into a vector. And so if you were scanning in, like you're talking about, and you have the lines that are really clear black and white, you know, white paper with really stark black lines, it should be able to do a pretty good job of tracing that and creating a vector from what you're bringing in, like pretty crisp vector.
Yeah. The only downfall is I've never used Illustrator, I've never used Inkscape. Like, I'm a Photoshop guy. Like, I used to be very heavily into photography, was a photographer, and so like I know the ins and outs of that, and so to learn another software, I guess, is just, I got to find the time to do it because I'm going to have to watch YouTube videos and everything else on how to do it. So I'm just going to have to carve out time to sit and do that. And so I don't think it's going to be hard, but it's just time-consuming trying to learn the process of doing it.
Yeah, if you've got Photoshop experience, then Illustrator, you know, everything, obviously it's vector, not raster, but the UI is pretty similar, and so it won't be, you know, completely foreign or anything. And actually, while we're talking, I just opened it up here, Illustrator, to look at that. And so if you bring in an image, go to the object menu, there's an option there that's image trace. And all you do is go to that and hit make, and it traces it into a vector. So
that's quick.
You know, yeah. Be nice and easy. So now you have no excuse not to do it.
Well, kind of, because I don't even know. Because I don't have a copy machine or a scanner big enough at my house. I'm gonna have to take it apart and take it to work, and I'm gonna hope that a full size scanner / copy, like a Xerox machine, is big enough or has a big enough bed on it to scan it. If not, I don't know. I may end up having to do it all manually. I don't know.
Yeah.
But I'm hoping that it's big enough that it can scan it, because that would make it a whole lot easier. So.
Yeah, all these new programs, that's probably one reason I never learned SketchUp. I've been doing work on a CAD drawing plan or app on my iPad, and I tried to start learning SketchUp, and it's just one of those softwares that's just brand new to you. The whole user interface is different, and just the learning curve and the time it takes to develop that learning curve is just not on the cards for me right now. So I can feel your pain in learning a new software.
Yeah, but looking back on it, when like learning SketchUp, to me SketchUp was easy to learn, and I don't know why, but I picked it up pretty quickly, and didn't watch. I watched like the 5 introduction videos that Google puts out, and other than that, I just got in there and just started messing around. And every once in a while, I got a YouTube on how to like make a chamfered corner or something. But
yeah, I'll probably get to it one of these days.
Well, we'll see. Maybe one day. Is that how you're putting together your plan, Bob? Is through SketchUp?
Yeah. Actually, for the arcade machine, I built it in SketchUp and then kind of roughly went off of that model and built the thing in real life. And then I went back and measured the actual machine, measured all the angles because there's a bunch of angles in it. And then went back and recreated the model based on those measurements so that the model and the plans will be like 100% accurate to the actual thing. Because these will be the first set of plans that I'm going to try to sell. I've never sold any of my plans before.
Yeah.
So,
Really?
yeah.
Well,
And as far as like learning SketchUp, in software in general, I'm kind of the same way. Even though like I've been in software development for a really long time, it seems like I wouldn't have that kind of block. But as far as 3D modeling stuff for SketchUp and for 3D printing, I had this kind of mentality of like it's just going to be too big for me to learn, so I'm not going to do it today. I'm going to do it like another time, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And when I first started, I like to make stuff. I needed to make some plans, and I had been avoiding SketchUp. And I finally sat down, went through those same videos that you're talking about, Jeremy, and focused on it for like 2 hours. And then I was like, oh, wait, this is actually really easy, and I know a lot more about it than I thought I did. And I wrote a blog post about the things that I just learned, minutes before. And so it was like some basic tools, basic things that you would use to make, general stuff, none of the really complex things. And through writing that stuff out, I realized that I knew a lot more about it already than I expected to. And then I was able to just start making stuff. And 3D printing software is the same way, where I avoided it for so long, thinking it was going to be a lot harder and more time consuming than it actually was when I, just sat down and focused on it for just a little while. And then after that, it's just a matter of, like you said, you learn the thing that you need to do what I'm going to do today. It's that one little thing that you need to add to it, and you build up those skills over time.
Yeah, and I think the intimidation factor is big. Just about anything people do, they look at something and say, "Oh, well, that's too hard. Let me do that another time," instead of just saying, "Hey, let me take this task or let me take this giant project and break it down into manageable sized tasks, and let me complete just this one portion, and then once that's complete, I'll move on to the next one step." And once you break it down like that, it makes things so much easier and more manageable to chew on, So and that kind of leads us into today's topic. A bunch of our viewers when they heard you were coming on, and how you've pretty much exploded in the YouTube world, and they've want to know really how to take like a YouTube channel from, just starting to where it's sustainable. Do you have like any marketing advice? Anything about sponsors? And this is questions really for the both of you. Like I was telling you earlier, I don't really have a sustainable YouTube channel. I have about 8 videos up, but I do have a sustainable business that I've had to grow. So knowing how to do certain marketing aspects and sponsors to get me to where I am business-wise, I can weigh in a little bit there. So what you have any advice, Bob?
Well, that's pretty big, actually.
Yeah. Well, so this is what we're talking about. You take that big thing and you break it down into small steps.
Absolutely. Yeah, I'm a firm believer in that. A problem is just a bag of small problems. So there's a couple of things about that question about making the distinction between the YouTube channel and the business. And you were saying like your furniture is your business, and it may be hard to see how that would translate into growing a YouTube channel. But in my case, my YouTube channel is my business. Like I don't sell the stuff that I make, but the marketing aspect is really the same as if you were making furniture or building houses or selling scarves or whatever you're doing. The marketing stuff is still kind of the same. It's the general principles are the same. So as far as specifically growing a YouTube channel, I don't unfortunately have like a lot of people ask me like, what's the secret? Do you have a thing, that you can tell me that you can share with me to make it like help me do it too, and I don't, or I would write a book on it.
And I would read it.
Yeah, there's no thing there. I think it's a combination of a whole bunch of different stuff. A lot of it is totally out, and in my case, has been totally out of my control, and I'm perfectly fine, admitting to that and saying that it's been a lot of the graciousness of the people around me to help me build it and to help me share it, and that's not something I could control or cause. But I think back on the last couple of years and some like kind of turning points for my channel and for how my life has changed because of the YouTube thing over the last couple of years. And I can find a couple of points there that really stand out. One of which was I made a few videos. They were, I was getting a couple hundred people watching them and stuff. And David Picciuto had his weekly show where he was showing off, other people's work. And he said one time, like, if you make videos, send them to me, and I'll see if they're interesting, and I'll share them. And I sent him an email. And I didn't know him, and I said, I know I don't really do woodworking like what you're talking about. I know it's different, and so maybe it's not for your show, but I'm trying to share what I'm doing. And so I sent it to him, and he started putting my videos on his show. And at that moment, I saw a huge, just spike of interest and of subscribers and views, and everything just started to move up. And then that motivation caused me to want to do more often and stuff like that. So I can see that as a point in time where, someone else did me good and put me out to their audience. And so I think that as a creator, as someone who is creating stuff and trying to get it out there, that's something to look for opportunities that are bigger than your reach, and just try to be involved there, and just try to say, here's what I'm doing. It may be interesting to you, it may not, but just put yourself in those positions. And on the flip side of that, if you do have an audience of any size, be that person for someone else. I know that I did a bunch of brain pick episodes that were me interviewing somebody else, or like the audience interviewing somebody else. And that was a really good collaborative opportunity because it gave me the chance to be exposed to their audience, and it gave me the chance to expose them to my audience. And so there's just really kind of just honest conversational stuff that was, cross-pollinating these two groups of people that had common interests, but maybe, just weren't the same people. And so I think either way, you're a part of either one of those situations. I think you can be helpful, and you can be helped by other people in your same genre. I don't know if I went the long way around to say that, but so that's a pretty big thing. And as far as being helpful, this is something I've said several times to people, that I think one of the most useful ways and the most honest ways to get noticed on YouTube, specifically in our kind of DIY, hands-on learning place that we all kind of work in, is to find other people who are making good videos and doing teaching stuff. Go there and just be a part of the community, and go to somebody else's video and be in the comments. And when you see people asking questions that are not getting answered, answer the questions. Be helpful. Take your knowledge and your expertise, whatever level that is, and inject it into the comments of somebody else's videos, not to get attention, but just to bring value. And for me, that was something I tried really hard to do for a long time, was just to bring value to other places, even before I had videos out, because I've seen several people come in my comments and leave really awesome suggestions and really, answer questions that I couldn't get to and stuff. And when I see those people, I'm like, wow, I wonder who that guy is. I wonder who that girl is. They're being really awesome and helpful. And so then I go look at them and I'm like, oh, wow, they actually make really good videos too. I wonder, So I think, putting yourself, kind of injecting yourself into communities and bringing value is, I think, in my opinion, one of the best things that you could do. Because all of this YouTube stuff is about community. It's all about having stuff in common with people that you don't know in different parts of the world. And how do you share that knowledge? How do you how do you be a part of what everybody else is doing, and how do you let people be a part of what you're doing? So yeah, those are probably my top things for that part of it.
Yeah, you said something at the very beginning that I think is very, very specific to a lot of newer people trying to start YouTube channels, and that is your subscriber base. And you said that when you saw an increase in subscribers, that really motivated you to keep going. And, people starting out in YouTube, and I'm one of them, and that's a lot of reason why I haven't had that push yet, is I don't see that constant intake of subscribers, and so I don't necessarily always have that motivation to go back out and do another video and go through all the editing process and putting it up on the web. And I think that's what a lot of newer YouTubers have to decide is, just getting started, you may not see that increase very quickly, but you have to know that even that one subscriber that comes in, you may only get one more subscriber between now and your next video, but that one subscriber you just helped out. They liked your channel for a reason, whether it be how you shot video or the project you're working on or a technique you showed, but they subscribed for a reason. That should be that motivation. It shouldn't be like, oh, I haven't seen 100 new subscribers, so I'm not really going to be that motivated. Well, like what we said, take the giant problem, break it down into steps. So you want 100 subscribers to your channel. Well, you got to take them by the one or two that they come, and use that as that motivation. Be like, all right, well, let me try to get one more subscriber by my next video. And like I said, so I think that's a lot of where people kind of get discouraged starting off, is they don't see that huge jump. And then they start trying to compare themselves to people that have been doing it for several years, or maybe have a little better audio or video equipment and have a different style. If you want to get started, get out and shoot video. It doesn't have to be fancy. Just shoot video and put it out there. And then you will slowly develop your style of shooting video and doing different angles and making your video a little more fun and a little more, I guess, CGI behind it. So, yeah. Go ahead. I just think it's...
There's several things. I mean, you're totally right. When you have one new subscriber, that is one person. It's easy to look at numbers on YouTube and just, you see, like, at least me, it's easy to see the numbers and the graphs and to look at like this, like I'm a data guy. And so to see all those numbers, I'm really fascinated with like where they come from and how they're growing and how they change over time and all that stuff. It's really easy to look at those as numbers, but you're totally right that every one of those numbers is a single person out there somewhere that, has interests and has a certain amount of time that they spend on YouTube and a certain amount of time that they don't want to spend on YouTube. And if they're choosing to spend any of that time with you, that's pretty important. And to look past that and be like, oh, there's only one person, not 100 people. I mean, you don't want to devalue the fact that somebody cares enough about what you're doing to like click that button for whatever that's worth. So there's that, but then there's also like the flip side of it, and that's a catch-22 of you want people, but you also want to value the single person, right? So the flip side of all that is that you also have to be willing, and this goes for any kind of creation, YouTube, music, writing, comics, whatever creation you do, whatever type of art you do, you have to create that stuff for the sake of creating it. You have to create it because you love it and because you want to do it. And I mean, generally, painters don't paint hoping that someone's going to like the painting. They just paint because they want to paint and they want to get something out and they want to create something. And so I think, especially as you're starting up, you have to create videos for the sake of creating them, and trying to share some knowledge or whatever your goal is, but figure out that goal and then just work on it and try not to worry about, even though it's not terribly realistic, try not to worry about whether anybody's watching it or not. Because the more stuff, exactly what you said, the more stuff you do, the better you're going to get at it. And then the more things you're going to have available when somebody does find you. When somebody finds you and they watch one video and they're like, oh, this is great. Oh, there's only one video. That's kind of a bummer. But if they watch it and they go, oh, wow, it has 10 more that I can go watch. That's great, And let me jump back. One other thing about the individual looking at getting one new subscriber. It's easy to think that that's just one person and that's, maybe that's small or whatever. But as connected as we all are now with social media and just how insanely attached everybody is to everybody else and what they're watching and what they see and what they like and all this stuff. When you get one new subscriber, you're actually getting one conduit to potentially thousands of other people. And so if that one person likes your video, and at some point they're willing to share your video with all of their Facebook friends and all of their Twitter followers and all of their MySpace buddies, or I don't know what MySpace is. If they're willing to share your stuff out to their network of people, that has a pretty big potential reach. So it's easy to look at those single people and say that's just one subscriber, but that's actually one conduit to a whole lot of other people. And I think that's where, once the growth begins, that network stuff with the social media networking, that's where the growth can and eventually does become kind of exponential. Because you get one person that connects to 1,000 people. Those 1,000 people connect to 1,000 people each. And then you just have this like massive, tree that spreads out. And that's how your content can get out to people very quickly, at a certain point.
Yeah. And you said, just a few minutes ago that don't watch and see if people are watching your content. Don't worry about that. Do either of you, both you, Bob, and Drew, do you have the setting enabled somewhere there in YouTube that sends you an email every time you have a new subscriber? Do you have that active so you get an email that says you got one new subscriber?
I used to have that, and I think there's been some kind of upgrade to YouTube as of late, and I think that got turned off by accident. But I used to have it on the whole time, and that was one of the driving forces to me, is that every time I saw that email pop up, I'm like, okay, great, that's somebody else that I can share my passion with. And whenever you think about the starting point, whenever you first began doing YouTube videos, you did it because you loved what you're about to share with these people. You're doing it just because you want to, and you're hoping that somebody else out there will like it just as much as you do. So you're not doing it for the sake of trying to get subscribers and trying to get numbers and trying to get paid. You're sharing it because you're hoping that other people will want to see it just as much as you love to share it. And that's what I get from a lot of people, is that they're whenever they first start, that's the first mistake they make, is they try and concentrate solely on getting as many subscribers as possible. They concern themselves with the subscriber lull that some channels go through, and that kind of throws your mentality kind of in the dumper, so to speak, is because you're trying to concentrate too much on numbers and not about the passion that you had when you first started your channel. So concentrating on the numbers as people, as Bob was stating, really helps the driving force behind what it is that you actually are doing with your YouTube channel.
Yeah, and I kind of think that's probably one of those things, and I have it enabled, and it's because I don't know how to turn it off. But I think when you see, and you only see like that email once every 2 or 3 days or once a week that says, oh, you got one new subscriber, that goes back to like what Bob was saying. Don't watch the subscriber. Don't watch that count and see where it fluctuates. Turn that email notification off, and then the next time you get on YouTube, be surprised about what number's there. And if it doesn't change, don't be discouraged, just put out another video. Maybe, the way social media and everything else is nowadays, there's so many arithmetics and algorithms that says if you don't watch this person's channel so many times or click so many buttons, you're not going to see it pop up on your higher subscribe list, or just like Facebook, if you don't comment on that company's page, you're not going to see them in your news feed. So the more content you put out, you'll see those numbers start to climb a little more. And it all goes based on you got to market yourself as well. And that's, don't be afraid to talk about what you do. Don't live a completely separate life online than what you do in real life. If you're passionate about doing woodworking or making stuff and building and making YouTube videos, then live that passion in real life and tell people, hey, this is what I did. Here's a YouTube. Share it with your friends, your family, because they're your cheerleaders in your corner, and they may share it one time, or they may tell somebody, and that person's going to tell somebody. And to me, and so that's really how I got started in business and making furniture, was all pure word of mouth marketing. I offered to help one lady just out of the kindness of my heart, and then she ended up paying me a very small amount on a table, and in return I ended up getting 3 other tables directly from her, 3 other commissions, because of a result of her word of mouth. And so that's my biggest piece of advice on marketing, is live your life the same way as you do online. If you're going to put out videos and be passionate about it online, be passionate about it in real life, because it shows.
I agree with that completely, and I think that a lot of people are, in a way, embarrassed to share this with people they know, because they're a lot closer to those people than maybe the ones that they don't know on YouTube. I mean, the fact is, whenever you put a video out, it's not just about you and the camera you're talking to. Once you release it on YouTube, it's there for everyone to see. And if you're not, like you said, passionate about it outside of the shop or the camera or wherever you're at recording your videos, if people don't see that, they're not going to be enticed to go to your channel and share it with their friends and family as well. And that's something I actually struggled with in the beginning too, is, if people see this, if I share this with other people, regardless of the fact I've already put out videos, are they going to just think I'm a complete dork and just make fun of me for it? But after a while, I started embracing that in my videos and acting like a dork at times, so they could actually see the true side of me, and I wouldn't be fearful of sharing that with anybody, because it's a personality trait that I possess, and I wanted people to know who I really was. So I started being my complete self in my videos. So
I think that's incredibly important and so hard to do. Like I've found I've gotten some of the most personal reactions to some of my videos when I make mistakes, or when I flub words, or anything like that just shows being transparent about who you actually are in front of the camera. I think brings people closer to understanding who you are in real life, and that's so hard to do, being transparent for a bunch of people that you don't know, and you don't know how they're going to react to you, and they're going to think you're a dork, or call you names or whatever, and you don't know any of that when you're filming. So that's that's not to be taken lightly, and just to say just be yourself in front of the camera. It's hard. It's really hard, but
very hard.
It's also very important, because people are drawn to you when they realize that you're human, and you're just as goofy as they are.
It's a true skill, though, to, like you said, to be yourself is very difficult in front of a camera, and it takes many opportunities in front of the camera to develop that carefree personality. Because when you first start it, you're almost like a deer in headlights, trying to remember the stuff you're wanting to get across, and trying to get it across in a good way, and a way that they're going to understand. And you tend to hide your true self concentrating so much on trying to get that point across. So it takes practice. It really does.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it puts you in a vulnerable position, or you're putting yourself in that vulnerable position that, you know, as human beings, we just don't like to do that to ourselves. And you putting everything out there, all your kinks and quirks, and, you know, like Bob said, you don't know how they're going to react. You're putting yourself in a vulnerable position to have negative reaction, but you have to take that negative reaction and turn it positive and be like, all right, well, you know, they didn't like how I said this, so let me see if I can say it a little different. Or, you know what, who cares what that one or two people think?
Yeah.
You know, I'm doing this for me. I'm not necessarily doing it for them.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I'm putting out the videos and sharing the content because that's what I like to do.
I've got something to that point that I heard in another podcast somewhere, and it's escaping me where I heard it now. But I feel like it was maybe Tim Ferriss or something. But he was talking about, whoever it was talking about when you create a thing, you put it out there, and the reaction is negative to it. And you think like, oh, my audience doesn't like the thing that I'm doing. And I've felt that so many times myself, where I make something and I put it out there, and you get that negative stuff back from, you know, maybe a lot of people, maybe just a couple people. And you think, my audience doesn't like me or doesn't like the thing I created. Well, this comment or this podcast I heard made the distinction between, or talked about exactly what your audience is. And it really hit me hard, and it's stayed with me ever since, is that your audience are the people that like what you do. And those other people that don't like what you do, they're not your audience. They're not the people that you're going after. And if you look at it that way, then it takes some of the pressure off of like, you know, here's 10 people and I have to make all 10 of these people happy with what I'm doing. No, you do what you do. And if 5 of those people like what you're doing, then you have a 5-person audience. And the next time you may have a 4-person audience. But the fact is, like, people will be drawn to you because they like what you do. And so if you're true to who you really are and how you really want to do things, and you kind of go after that, then you'll end up being surrounded by people who just, you know, genuinely like who you are and what you do. And those are the people that you want around anyway, you know? So, and once I kind of got that, it made negative comments and made, you know, just the negative stuff in general a little bit easier to just kind of like, oh, well, that's not who I was going after anyway, you know?
Yeah, that's very true. I'd never really looked at it that way, because in the beginning, and even sometimes now, I was trying to make everyone happy, and you just can't do that.
No.
But yeah, I would get negative comments, or what some people consider constructive criticism, and it's just nothing but negativity. And you take that one or two ways, like you said, that's not the person I'm going after, or maybe I really need to alter my way of doing things because my audience doesn't like me. So, yeah, that is probably an internal struggle that a lot of creators go through. And I hate to tell people whenever they ask me how do I deal with the negative comments, I hate to really say you kind of need to develop a thick skin, because it really makes it sound like that you're going to get nothing but negativity from people when I hear that particular excuse. But you can't really take those negative comments personally, and that takes a lot of practice too.
I think that does take practice, but I also think, I don't know. This is something that I think maybe I'm different about than everybody else that I've talked to about this. I know a lot of people who create content that can just, like, they get negative stuff and they're just like, whatever. I don't care about that guy, or I don't care about that girl, or I don't care about that comment. And for me, it's, you know, maybe this is putting myself on the target here, but it's a lot harder for me to let those things fall off my back, you know? Because I do care about what I do, and I do care about how it affects people, and I do care if they're getting something out of it or not. And so the negative, mean stuff, it sticks with me a little bit, you know, and maybe I don't have a thick skin. And I've tried really hard to let that stuff just kind of wash away and focus on the other 99% of positive. You know, it's like overwhelmingly positive. But I've always had a little more trouble getting the negative stuff away and just like letting it go than it seems like a lot of other people have. But to people that are starting your channel, yeah, I would say the same thing, Drew. Like, don't expect it to all be negative, because negative stuff gets talked about way more than the positive stuff gets talked about. But you have to be realistic and say that not everybody's going to like what you do, or how you do it, or how you say things, or how you whatever, use a table saw. There's just going to be that stuff, and if you expect it and you kind of know that it's coming, it may be a little bit easier to deal with. So
yeah, well, I mean, put it in perspective like this. So there's going to be a troll. There's always going to be trolls, and there's those type of people in all walks of life, anything you do. So put it in this aspect, if you're not going to put out video because you don't want to see the negative comments that may be coming, then would you get in a car and drive down the street when you know at some point somebody's going to cut you off, or you're going to make somebody mad because of the way you drive? It kind of put it in a different perspective for people. Like, no, I'm still going to drive. Just because I may get cut off one time, or somebody may think I drive too fast or too slow. That's one person out of every car around me. So, put it in a different light for you. It's one person out of the billions of people that use the internet that could have access to your video. That's one person. Who are they? And who are they for that one comment to affect how you do business, or how the passion you feel towards something? They're in the limelight. They're nothing. That one comment's nothing. So
yeah, and the fact of the matter is, like, every day that you get in front of the camera and you start making a new video for YouTube, you have the opportunity to do things any way that you want to do them. And you can decide to change what you're going to do today based on what somebody said yesterday, or you can, in a positive or negative way. Or you can just decide to, like, I'm going to do what I think is best, the way that I want things done, because that's one of the freedoms we have as content creators. Like, we're not, we don't have like a TV crew that's telling us how to talk and how to act, and like, you're going to look bad if you do this, or, we have the freedom and the independence to do what we want. And that's huge. So, every morning that you get in front of the camera, whenever it is, you have the opportunity to take advantage of that independence and of that freedom to be yourself, to make the thing that you want to make. That's awesome. So you're totally right. It's, even though those comments are hard, the negative stuff is hard, you can't let it stop you from, like, moving on and doing the next thing, which will probably be better than the last one,
Yeah, exactly. All right. Well, I mean, we could probably talk about this all night, and probably more than that. But
like Bob said, it's big.
Yeah,
it is. Can I say another thing about this?
Yeah, no, go ahead.
Subscriber stuff, though. One of the traps that, and I fall into this too, constantly, but one of the traps we fall into as YouTubers is that we look at the subscriber number and we put a lot of importance on that. And to be perfectly honest, that number means nothing as far as having a successful channel.
Exactly.
That subscriber number does not in any way translate to views. Views are how you get paid. Mm-hmm. So, and when I look at my numbers, the per video, like a kind of general median number, the number of views per video is usually about 20% of the total number of subscribers that I have on my channel.
Yep. Mine's about 28 to 30% right now.
Yeah. So that number doesn't really mean anything at all. And you can, even in your analytics, you can break down like how many of these views were subscribers and how many were not. And that's even more telling, because then you see that of those 20%, only, 30 or 40% of those views were actually subscribers. And so you're like, well, what are all these other people subscribed for if they're not watching the videos? On the flip side of that, there's a bunch of people watching your videos that are not subscribed to you.
Yeah.
So, you have the opportunity to get tons and tons of views, even with not very many subscribers. And if you focus on that, then it takes away the focus of like trying to get people to you to hit the subscribe button. And it's more like, okay, I need to create the best content I can create, get it in front of as many people as possible on every platform, in every opportunity, in every situation, because them seeing it is what actually matters.
Mm-hmm. And I've even met a viewer that dropped by my shop not too long ago. This is actually his second time to do so, and he is not a subscriber, but he watches my stuff every time I put something out.
How does he keep track of it? I'm curious.
He he says he creeps.
So he just comes back and like refreshes it once a week or something?
Just to see if it's there, and then if it's not, then he'll come back another day. But yeah, he just says he creeps. He said, I just prefer not to be in the system, so to speak. So I just creep.
Interesting.
Be another statistic. Yeah, I mean, that's a good thing that you said, Bob, because like I said earlier, it's, there's so many different things out there that I'm subscribed to. I can't tell you how many channels, but I'm not notified every single time that a new video is posted from every one of those channels. And it all goes back to being active, and YouTube tries to determine, just like Facebook and Twitter and everybody's, what you should actually see based off of the views, or the things you view, or the things you comment on, or like. Those become your top priorities of what YouTube thinks you should see. So,
and that's kind of what sponsors look at too, because we haven't really touched on the sponsorship thing, but the only thing that I hear from sponsors is, what is your average view count in a 28-day time frame, or a 7-day time frame? What is your average view count? They don't say how many subscribers do you have.
Yeah, they want unique views or downloads. Yeah, exactly. So, and I mean, we could get into sponsors, but again, like that, I think really we're at like getting the motivation to get started, and sponsors comes, in my opinion, further down the road, when you have actually started seeing those views pop up on your channel. So, if you guys have any more questions, definitely get in contact with us. We want to hear what you think. That's why we put out the topics that we do, is because it's what you want to hear. And we're going to try to start something new, kind of like a new segment every episode from now on. And we're going to do kind of what's a product or a tool that we use in the course of our business or our channels that we want to recommend to you, based off whether we can't live without it, it's just a nice to have, or hey, this thing was just cool. So, Bob, you want to go first? What's something that you want to recommend?
Yeah, sure. So I don't know if you guys watch the channel Homemade Modern, but Ben Ueda is a guy I know that runs that channel, and he does a lot of very modern but inexpensive furniture, and a lot of it's concrete, like polished concrete, and like basic wood, furniture and stuff. But it's all really creative and really interesting, and has a different look than a lot of the other stuff that's out there that's being made on YouTube. Anyway, so he's got a great channel, makes good videos, and then he put out a book earlier this year, a couple months ago maybe. And it has a lot of the same projects that are on his channel, but then there's some other ones. And it's just a really well done book. It's really nice, has great instruction, really good photography. And Ben's a cool guy. I've had a few conversations. I did a brain pick with him, and I got to know him through that. And we've had a few conversations. He's really super intelligent and really good at marketing stuff. So anyway, cool guy, good book. So you should definitely check that out.
Yeah, well, in fact, I've been talking to Ben over the last few weeks about his book, and I think we're trying to arrange a time that we could possibly record a short little segment with him that I can plug into one of the episodes, because like you said, the stuff he puts out is just completely different, and it's very DIY. And it's go to the home center, pick up this material, and in a few hours you could have this. So I'm trying to find. He did a TEDx talk. Did you ever watch that?
It's in my watch later list.
Okay. I just pulled up my watch later list because I was like, I'm pretty sure you did it. Let me check. But yeah, it's on my watch later list too. And he's an amazing guy. And in fact, it's him and his wife, right, that do it?
His sister.
Or his sister, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so go check out Homemade Modern. And then, Drew, what's something that you want to recommend?
Well, my recommendation is a specific tool that I had the pleasure of using my past video that sure did make drilling adjustable shelf pins a lot easier. I've used all kinds of jigs in the past to try and make those, and at one time or another, either I get the front just right and the back is slightly off from what the front was, and then the corresponding side to the other side of the cabinet was off, so the shelf kind of wobbled here and there, and I never was able to get it just right. The jig, Rockler actually sent me an adjustable shelf pin jig that does both sides at the same time and adjusts to specific widths of unassembled cabinetry. So you kind of have to do these when they're not put together yet. But it's already set up and compatible with the Euro-style hinges, so it sets them back far enough to where it doesn't interfere with the hinge. But it also aligns the front and backs completely parallel to one another in the same plane, so there's no offsetting of your holes and just misalignment of your pin holes. And it was very quick and easy to use, plus all of the accessory parts of the tool, like the indexing pins, if you want to keep going up and up and up, that exceeds the width of the tool. They actually keep those attachments on board the actual jig, so you don't have to hunt for them in storage drawers that you might be keeping them in. So I really enjoyed using that jig. So that's my recommendation for that.
Yeah, watching your video and seeing that jig, I guess kind of, I don't know, makes me jealous of that jig. Like, I have the Craig one, and I've never had a problem with any of their products. And I mean, even their Craig shelf pin jig's stellar, but to me it leaves just a little bit to be desired, for that exact reason of the front and the back. It is very easy to get them unparalleled to each other. Mm-hmm. And I mean, even just a fraction of an inch and your shelf wobbles. So I definitely like the way Rockler put that one together.
Yeah, their Jigget line of tools is a really good line to look up. They've got all kinds of stuff, and I've got some more coming up in the next couple of videos that they haven't released yet. So it'll be interesting to see.
All right. Well, mine recommendation, and it's purely going to be because I'm going to purchase it tomorrow. I have no experience with it. I don't know anything about it other than I need a disc belt sander combo. The one I had burned out, and I've really found myself needing one in a lot of projects. And I just never pulled the trigger until I got an email the other day from Harbor Freight. They have their Central Machinery 4x36-inch belt and 6-inch disc sander combo on sale for $58. Yeah, I mean, that right there, I was like, I'm going to do it. I mean, even if it only works 1 year, it will get that $58 worth out of it. And at rate, it's a regular $145, so you're looking at almost $100 off. I'm going to recommend that, and I'll even attach a link to get to the coupon to get it. And we'll see, maybe in the next episode or 2 episodes from now, I'll kind of give whether it was worth the investment or not. But at this point, I think it's going to be, so I'm going to go purchase it tomorrow.
Do you know if the coupon that you have is compatible with the Black Friday sale that they're going to be having?
This was sent out on the 20th, and I don't think it is. it it specifically says in there can't be used with any other discount or coupon. So kind of stinks because I was hoping to be able to use a 20% off coupon on top of that, but for $58 you're getting a machine that's well worth more than that. And I saw somebody using this exact machine in a video not too long ago, and I can't remember who now. All right, well, if you guys would like to have your question answered on air, guaranteed, or you just want to hang out with us after the show, you can become a patron of our Patreon campaign. Head over to www.patreon.com/Woodshop101. And if a recurring monthly payment doesn't suit you, you can head over to the website, and in the show notes we'll have links for small one-time donations. But even more important than monetarily donating is sharing the show. Pass it around, let people know. In fact, go over to iTunes, leave us a 5-star rank over there, because sharing it and giving us rankings on iTunes, that helps us get in front of more people. And that's ultimately what we want. We're not here to make a living off the podcast. We're here to share our knowledge and the knowledge of our guest hosts like Bob to as many people as we can reach. And that alone, sharing it alone, is all we really want from you. That's what we ask you to do. So, Bob, if people want to get a hold of you directly, where can they get a hold of you at?
Probably the best way to actually get in touch with me is through Twitter, at I Like to Make Stuff, but it's only one F because they won't let it be long enough. But that's the best way. Also, everything else is at iliketomakestuff.com.
Okay.
Well, and also if you would like to reach any one of us, Jeremy, can you give your contact information as well?
Yeah, you can pretty much find everything at countrysideworkshop.com. If you want a quick response from me, I'm on Facebook, countrysideworkshop.com. Twitter, you might wait a week or two before I answer you.
He's getting better, though.
So go to Facebook. Instagram, I've actually been pretty active on Instagram. So that's where you can reach me at.
Very cool. Well, I'm also on all the social media as well, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, pretty often. But you can also find me on the website of rhwoodshop.com, by email, drewshort@rhwoodshop.com. And YouTube, just searching my name, you can find me there and comment on one of my videos. And I'm pretty active on making sure that I comment back to you as many comments as I can. But also, if you would like to reach both of us at the same time here at Woodshop 101, you can find us on iTunes and YouTube just by searching Woodshop 101 Podcast. And the website is woodshop101podcast.com/listen. Also, while you're there, don't forget to subscribe to get our show to a greater public eye. Like we discussed in this podcast, one share can get us to as many as 1,000 people per share. And like Jeremy said, that's what we want to do. That's what we want to have happen, because we do this because we love it. Also, if you have a question, you can email it to us at woodshop101podcast@gmail.com. Or you can leave us a voicemail by calling our new number at 409-234-3959. And you just might hear your question played on air and answered by Jeremy and myself. And if we have a guest host at that time, maybe then as well. We post new episodes every 2 weeks, so we hope to hear from you guys very soon with any questions. So from Jeremy, myself, as well as Bob Clagett. Bob, we appreciate you being on the show. Thank you very much.
Thanks for having me.
And I don't know, I'm pretty sure that you've heard our sign-off here recently. If you're familiar with my show, surely you have. But this show kind of adopted it. So we are going to give a little boom sign-off to everybody on the count of 3. You ready?
Sure.
All right. 1, 2, 3.
Boom.